I'd like to call the January's Campbell County School Board meeting to order. And we will first start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Before I turn over to the gavel, I just want to take the opportunity to recognize all of our SROs. We have a couple here tonight, and all law enforcement, because today is National Law Enforcement Day. So we really appreciate all our law enforcement, and especially our Campbell County SROs. And if you would share that with the rest of the SROs. Thank you. And at this point, I am going to hand over the gavel to Dr. Johnson because we have a changing of the guard.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Yes, this is our annual reorganization meeting, and the first order of business tonight would be the election of a chairperson for the 2023 school calendar year, 23. So at this time, I'll open up the floor to nominations for chairperson.
I would like to nominate Mark Epperson.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Move the nominations be closed.
Second.
Okay. There being no other further nominations, we'll vote. All in favor of Mark Epperson taking this chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Y'all got a long ways to travel. There you go, sir.
All of this. Thank you, sir.
Okay, hello everybody. All right. Thank you, Dr. Miller. Okay, the next,
Vice Chairman.
we've got the vice chair. I'll open up the floor for nominations for vice chair for the 2023 calendar year.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Barry Jones for Vice Chairman.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we got a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome aboard, Mr. Jones. Okay. Next item up, appointment of clerk and deputy clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend Michelle Montanahan as the clerk and Tracy Dobbins as the deputy clerk.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? Oh, we need, that's right, we got,
Oh, sorry.
So moved on the recommendation.
And you
Okay.
second.
Second.
all right, now we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, committee appointments. We've got a list here, and we'll just kind of, some of you have already served on some of these committees in the past, so let's just, I'll run down the list and just let me know if there's any objections or if anyone wants to, any particular committee they would like to go to. Governor's School, we've got Mr. Jones. Joint Committee, we got Mr. Brandt and Mr. Jones on the Joint Committee with the Board of Supervisors. Recreation, Ms. Parker, Laurel, Dr. Miller, and in the past, I've done STEM. Unless there's anyone here that would like to take STEM, I'm fine with that, but if not, I'm happy to continue with STEM as well. So,
Continue on.
any discussions on the committees, or is everybody okay with that? If so, I would entertain a motion to leave the committee, or the committees as stated.
Move that we approve the list as read.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, meeting dates and times.
Mr. Chairman, we recommend that we continue to meet on the second Monday of each month, with the exception, and also keeping the fourth Monday open in the event that we have to have a second meeting or a special call meeting, which we, next month we will when you're adopting a budget. That would carry with the exception of April and July, and because those Mondays fall either on a holiday or directly after a holiday, and we'd prefer to move that out to get packets and everything in order. So this past year, we moved it to the fourth Monday of April and the fourth Monday of July, and I'd recommend we do the same again this upcoming year.
Still at 6:30?
Still at 6:30 here at the Campbell County Technical Center.
Okay,
If there are no questions, I'll move to approve that request.
okay.
Second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Is there any further discussion regarding meeting dates and times for 2023? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And we do have, you said March, April, when we had the two,
That goes forward.
February, okay.
March.
Right, that's what I was thinking,
So
yeah,
They've moved it back, so you have to adopt the budget this year in February.
gotcha,
So it's 2 in February,
yeah. All right, good deal. Okay, next item we have on the agenda is public hearing to discuss the 2023-2024 operating budget. Do we have anyone?
You can open the public hearing at whatever time,
Okay,
6:37.
we'll open the public hearing for the operating budget at 6:37. Is there anyone
Mr.
signed?
Chairman, no one signed up to speak for the budget tonight.
Just offer to the audience.
Okay, then we'll close at 6:38. Thank you, Ms. McClanahan. Okay. Next item up, academic progress. Dr. Stanley. And Ms. Roberts, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's our pleasure to come before you tonight to talk to you a little bit about where we are academically. Ms. Sarah Robertson, our Director of Assessment, has come to you before and talked to you really about how we gather data, what data we look at, and how we use it to drive our instructional decisions. So tonight, we're going to kind of give you a snapshot of what our spring looked like and also what our growth has looked like during this school year. So I think you'll see that we are heading in the right direction. I'd like to say that we are today where we were prior to the pandemic, but I can't say that. But I can tell you that we're heading in the right direction. I think you'll see that as Sarah goes through some of our data. Sarah?
Good evening. In spring 2022, we came and presented a large academic progress update to you, and we gave you state assessment history and then shared our formative assessment data that we use to measure growth with the NWEA MAP assessment. Because at that point in May, when we were presenting to you, we were in the middle of SOL testing. So tonight, I wanted to recap our spring 22 SOL testing data and then show you how our students are achieving thus far in the school year. Test scores have improved from the 2021 school year, and we are working to return to the pre-pandemic achievement levels. Campbell County test score improvement is in line with improvement seen across the state. We still felt the continued impact of COVID during the 2021 school year, with COVID absences in both staff and students, and the data represents that. So on our first slide here, you will see our reading SOL scores, and this is comparing the subject to the state of Virginia. And we're comparing back to the last year of the pre-pandemic year, which was the 18-19 school year. You'll see the 19-20 year is represented with zeros because that was the year of closure and we did not finish testing. So we already shared with you 2021 data, and now you can see the 21-22 data came in at 73%. So we've made great gains, and we're only 6 points behind the pre-pandemic level in 18-19 in reading. Our math scores continue to improve as well, and we still, however, are behind a 15 points pre-pandemic gap, but there is a 16 gap level at the state as well. So we continue to be right in line in that regard. Our science scores came in at 63%, the state at 65%, and there's still a 17-point gap compared to pre-pandemic levels. History came in at 70%, and there's a 13-point pre-pandemic gap. And our writing data from last year shows only grade 8 at 44%, and the previous data included also end-of-course data. And that is because we have moved to the local performance writing assessment for verified credit. So at this time, we do not have any SOL data from end-of-course students, and we have moved in that direction. We do know this is not where we would like it to be, but we also know that writing is a recursive process. And so because of that, our teachers and staff are working diligently to provide these writing opportunities for students, and we're improving our vertical alignment in middle school writing so that we will see a real improvement in our writing test scores this spring. So as Dr. Stanley presented to you in October, based on that data, we are fully accredited for this school year, and so we certainly celebrate that. What I wanted to really share with you tonight is the progress we've made thus far from fall to winter. And as I mentioned to you in spring, we measured that formatively in Campbell County with our NWEA MAP assessment, and that's what this data shows you here. So the math growth scores are comparing fall in blue to winter in orange. And in every grade level, K through 8, we are making growth in each of those areas in math. So that is quite a celebration. The same is true in reading. K through 8 looks very much the same, and we are seeing the growth in each of those grade levels as we have moved from fall to winter. So we're very excited to see exactly what happens in spring when we test again and to see the complete full year cycle of growth. I will say that NWEA put out a research brief in December, and they reported their latest research about academic rebounding, and that was the term that they're using to talk about returning to pre-pandemic achievement levels. And they have found that we're continuing to rebound, which is true nationally as well. They've also found it to not be linear, and so we are seeing some areas where we have some growth and then some dips. But overall, we're very proud of our grade levels and the mean growth that they are making. And so those gaps are continuing to narrow. And we certainly, even though student achievement does remain lower than a typical average year, full recovery is still likely a few years away. The national trends described in their research mirror exactly our Campbell County data. And so as you can see from these graphs, we are growing and we are working diligently to close the achievement gap, to rebound and exceed the pre-pandemic successes that we have had. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Last year, we talked to you about our comprehensive plan and things that we put into place to address learning loss and some of the things that we're challenged with now. We believe in those items. We believe in those things that we've initiatives that we put into place. You know, we hired reading specialists for our middle schools. We have done professional development throughout the school year that's really focused on the science of teaching reading and reading interventions. We tweaked our schedules last year, you know, with the block in our secondary schools, especially in the middle school. And now we do reading and math all day for the entire school year. So we've done a lot of things to help address these situations, and we feel like if we just stay steady, we'll continue to see our kids grow back to pre-COVID standards. We're still facing a lot of challenges. I mean, to be completely honest, we're seeing a higher frequency of challenging behaviors in the classroom. We are seeing higher levels of absenteeism this year. And, you know, we're seeing a lot of our younger kids who are just not ready to learn. So we're spending a lot of our times in grades K through 3 getting kids ready to learn, ready to read, ready to write, ready to do math. So it's not been easy, but again, we're making progress and we feel good about it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But that's kind of where we are at this point.
Looking good?
Looking better.
Yeah, everything's looking better, or it looked like the science was the one that was lagging more than, other than that writing. But, I got
Well,
any,
I can say,
idea why science is lagging more than the other?
when we came back to school, I think it was 2021, and we were not in school every day, but we were in school, I think, 4 days a week in most of our elementary schools. We really focused mostly on reading and math, and science really kind of went on the back burner, and that showed in our scores. And it's also showing, with the writing scores for those eighth graders. Yeah, I remember those kids were coming back to school, and they were 2 days a week, and the majority of their assignments were on a computer. So they were writing very little. Not to mention the fact that in that score, in the past, we had juniors whose writing scores would have raised that 44%. We now use a local assessment to test them, so they were kind of taken away. So this was just eighth graders. So a lot of that kind of showed up in a perfect storm there for that eighth grade troop.
So are we back pushing science?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Glad to hear we're trending in the right direction. Any other questions for Dr. Stanley?
Is
Comment?
anything suffering, I guess, from your extra attention you're giving to, math, science, and reading and so forth? I don't know if anything, we're taking away from anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just more or less identifying where kids are. And if you remember when we talked before about professional development, especially at the elementary level, it's using the data that we get and identifying where our kids are and what we need to do with our curriculum to adjust. And kids are really all over the board in terms of their ability levels. Whereas before, you may have had kids that were on, you may have had a teacher who was working with a group that had a 2 grade level difference, I guess. Now that's much wider. So you got kids who have done well, and the pandemic really didn't impact them a lot, and we have some that it truly did. So how do we get all kids caught up and moving forward? But no, I can't say that really anything has been impacted by an emphasis on other areas.
And so the writing, that was clearly a concern.
Correct.
What particular actions are we taking to address the
Well-
poor scores in writing as compared to even Virginia? We're kind of off the mark there, so.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is practice. And now in our middle school schedules, we've got principals and we've got teachers who are intentionally getting kids to write. And they do writing samples, they look at those writing samples, they grade those, and then they try to project how they'll do on the SOL test, and we feel like it's going to be much better.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, again, it doesn't include juniors who historically have done extremely well on their writing, so that data doesn't even have those scores in.
No.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Dr. Stanley.
Thank you.
And Sarah, thank you. Okay, at this time, the board will hear matters from the floor. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Please be respectful of the 3-minute time limit. Prior to speaking, please state your name and address. Comments must be directed to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. Thank you. And I believe I've got the most updated list. I think our first speaker tonight is Ms. Mendez.
Hi, congratulations. Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Mendez, and I live in Evington, Virginia, and I'm a member of Moms for Liberty in Campbell County. I continue to focus on the curriculum, the blueprint supposedly created to educate the children of Campbell County, but my focus is on Character Strong, a program that intends to educate children to be kind and to be strong and to be well, all through the lens of equity. It's no surprise that children continue to struggle with academics, knowing well that this absurd curriculum does nothing to address the learning deficits that continue to decline and said here tonight. What is character? Britannica defines character as the way someone thinks, feels, and behaves. Who builds character? Family, faith, community. So the more I research the contents of Character Strong, I'm horrified to think that these programs pretend to embrace American values under the premise that character is informed by social emotional learning. This is the great deception supported by this board and the educational administrators that jump at the latest political movement which ushers in endless funding to corrupt traditional American values of family, faith, and patriotism. So we know and accept that culture changes, but virtues do not. And these virtues are self-discipline and compassion, responsibility, friendship, work, courage, perseverance, honesty, loyalty, and faith. Virtues steeped in the American tradition of Judeo-Christian values, which contribute to the liberty and freedom we cherish in this great nation. So Character Strong is based on concepts formulated with social experimental theories promoted through the lens of political ideology of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Parents and community members continue to pull their kids out, seeking better alternatives to educate their children. So this is a short-term solution until we can turn the tables on a radical concepts designed to undermine parents. This community seeks to elect representatives that value transparency and accountability with a firm commitment to end political ideology and wokeness. So we will prevail as we continue to pursue this goal. As I always say, never, ever, ever, ever give up. Education is the battleground, and we will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez. Do we have anybody else? I think that's their list there, so, okay. Okay, next item up is approval of the December 12 meeting minutes.
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Phillips and a second from Mr. Jones. Any further discussion regarding the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Payment of bills.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed those bills and moved to approve payment.
Second.
Got a motion by Dr. Miller and a second by Mr. Maddox. Is there any further discussion regarding payment of the bills? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Acceptance of donations. Ms. McClanahan.
Tonight, you have 6 donations that were listed in advance of the meeting. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve them as presented.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Brandt. Is there any further discussion regarding donations? If not, I'll entertain, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of non-resident tuition.
You have 3 applicants requested for approval tonight. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve them as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Maddox and a second by Mr. Jones. All those, unless there's any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of request for supplemental transfer of appropriations. Ms. McClanahan.
Tonight, you have 6 appropriations listed in advance of the meeting. Unless you have any questions, I request you approve them as presented.
I make a motion to approve, and I thank Michelle for all of her education for me on what appropriations are. And that they are available on the website, so it is public on the website.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Brandt. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Consideration of designation of alternate staff member attending board meetings. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Annually, we have to designate someone to stand in my place in the event that I couldn't attend a meeting, and I recommend Dr. Stanley for that position.
Motion.
Second?
Got a motion by Mr. Maddox and a second by Ms. Parker. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Dr. Stanley signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, CISC, second reading revised policy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members. Tonight we have a second reading of policy JECA, admission of homeless children, definition change, that's all.
Move for approval.
Second?
So motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Parker. Any further discussion regarding second reading?
Just not so much about the policy, but how are we doing with that? Do we have many kids that fall under this category?
I mean, we have children who regularly fall under this. Sometimes it occurs in a bit of a wave because you'll have a family with several children at a time. But we handle those really well. We work with transportation, and those kids, you know, as you know, are pretty much allowed to stay with us if they become homeless and are placed in another division. So we work through that with transportation. I think that it's a struggle, but we do meet the law, we meet the need of the kids.
Any idea how many we have?
Right now,
Just a rough estimate,
I
I mean.
think we were 6 last I heard.
But we try to stay pretty proactive with that.
Oh, yes, they, once they're identified, we have this whole staff that takes care of those guys, make sure they're in
Good,
school.
good.
Thank you.
That's all I have, that's all.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sis. Ms. Hunley, consideration of personnel report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have the personnel report in front of you. Unless you have any questions, I'd ask that you'd approve it as written.
If there are no questions, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Any further questions or comments for Ms. Hunley?
We, close to fully staffed, or we kind of
Yeah,
ask that regularly, so.
Yeah, I mean, we always have a couple here and there, but we're in good shape, certified especially, classified
Got some in
about
the
the same
pipeline
number.
for whatever we're missing. so.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and it's good timing at the semester because we have student teachers that are finishing up in the fall, so we usually do a good job of replacing those openings, but we're fine.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
When's the career fair? Next month?
I was going to mention that, yes. So it was mentioned last time, I think Mrs. White told Ms. Parker, because I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that the location is changing. So we're getting ready to host our annual job fair. It's usually at Brookville Middle School, but it's going to be at the high school this year on February 11th. We're changing the format of it, so we're going to open it up to certified and classified staff, to not limit it just to teaching staff. So it's the first time we're doing it this way, and we felt like the high school, kind of their space lent it a little bit better to do it that way. So we'll see. There's a pre-registration that we've posted several times. We have about 35 people signed up right now. That's more than we normally have for our job fairs at this time. So we'll see. It's a new format, but we felt like we needed to open it up to classified staff as well.
That's still a Saturday, right?
It is,
It's still
yes,
Saturday.
February 11th,
Gotcha.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Yes.
How
So
we
we'll
doing on-
probably have an influx right at 9 because, there's not a scheduled time that people have to be there like in the past. So that'll probably be the busy time, and we'll see how it goes.
How are we doing bus drivers?
I spoke to Dr. Ranella earlier, so he just
There he is.
mentioned that we were down 5, but he did just have 2 retire, so he's up to 7 now.
Cool.
Hoping that the job fair will help with that as well.
There you go. Any other
Thank you.
questions, comments?
No?
Okay, just to be proper and clear, so we had a motion by Mr. Brandt and a second by Mr. Maddox. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Hunley. Okay, school-based mental health services grant. Dr. Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the past several years, we have enjoyed a partnership with Harvest Outreach to provide professional service, counseling services to our students who were found eligible. For the past 2 years, anticipating the need for increased mental health services in our schools, we invested a considerable amount of our CARES funds with Harvest to provide more licensed professionals in our schools. As CARES funds begin to go away, our staff has been working hard to try to figure out how do we maintain that level of professionalism, professional services for our kids without hiring an incredible large number of staff, and then would that staff be available if we had the opportunity to hire? So in October, we were notified of a federal school-based mental health grant that was being provided by the Department of Education. Typically, the Department of Education will provide 50 to 150 awards nationwide. So our staff got together quickly with Harvest representatives, and we completed the application. And tonight, I am pleased to inform you that we were awarded, over a 5-year period, $3,748 as a result of completing this grant. So I'm excited to say that we should, this will go a long ways into helping us meet the needs of our students in the area of mental health. So, to
5 years. So is that comparable to what we were getting from CARES on a per annum basis?
that is not quite the same level, but it's close.
Yeah.
We do have a 25% match that we have to make. But when you look at what we were thinking about,
Sure.
without the grant, it's doable. I think we're in a good place. Obviously, the grant makes it a lot easier.
And
Wonderful.
don't have to worry about it
Yeah.
for 5 years.
Great
How
news.
does that grant compare to other localities? Just curious, do you know?
No, I think Lynchburg got it, but I don't know of any other school division that received the grant.
Wow.
Now, in the past, Harvest has been funded primarily by Medicaid, correct?
Correct. When I
So
say
is
eligible
this gonna be
students,
extra?
yes. When I say eligible students, that's what I was referring to. They had to be receiving Medicaid. We do have 1 or 2 slots per school that our principal could ask Harvest to work with, and they would always work with us. But CARES funding allowed us to invest in basically 10 more slots per school to anybody, whether they qualified for Medicaid or not.
Okay.
So this will help us continue to support kids with or without Medicaid
You said that's over 5 years.
over the next 5 years. Yes, sir.
And you
That's
said it's
great.
about 10 slots per school you were able to do
Basically,
without Medicaid then?
basically, yes.
Okay,
And then we
that's great.
still have those that are Medicaid eligible
Eligible,
to
yeah.
receive services. So
Right.
this is in addition to,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're talking well over 100 kids here, right?
Yes, sir.
And y'all put this together in like 2 weeks?
In that 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
That's remarkable.
That's great.
So when does this,
Thank you.
when does this begin?
Right now.
Right now.
We have a webinar tomorrow, and it starts to help us fund this second semester of this year.
So is that meeting our needs,
Certainly.
the number of kids, and, I mean, obviously, this is great. I mean, are we meeting the needs of the kids in our division that need this kind of help?
It helps. I mean, I don't know if we could ever say we are totally meeting everybody's needs because it varies, and the needs are great, but it goes a long ways. We still, are looking at possibly hiring a few RBT. These are special education trained professionals that work primarily with student behaviors. So we're still looking at ways of how we can support this initiative and better meet our needs. I mean, that's always an ongoing challenge.
Without getting into too much detail, how does it work as far as how do we report back to ensure that we are doing what we said we were going to do in order to receive the grant?
Oh, we'll have to provide a lot of data.
Yeah.
And we'll have to provide an awful lot of feedback on what we're doing. And then they'll ask for the number of students that we worked with.
Right.
So that they ask for a lot of data. It's very detailed.
Yeah, I would imagine, that kind of,
Yes. Yes.
wow. That's
How many
great.
people would you say worked on this, from staff?
For my staff, I would say 3 to 5.
3 to 5?
And then Harvest, you know, we couldn't have done it without that partnership. They did an awful lot of work.
Please pass on that we really appreciate the hard work to all of them.
Absolutely, that's great.
So
Thank
the
you.
25% match is gonna be something new for our budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What's $1 million?
Okay. Statement and local statement of economic interest. Mr. Planet.
Just a reminder to turn your form in today, which you all did, so thank you.
You have mine, I'm done.
You got mine.
We amaze you, don't we?
Thank you for the reminders throughout, too. That helps.
Yeah, all those nasty grams.
That's right. Okay, next item up, report of the superintendent. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have much tonight other than, I just want to take an opportunity to thank our maintenance staff over the holiday. You know, we had that extreme cold weather, and you've heard of all the issues that were, that a lot of other divisions had. There wasn't a day that they weren't working, that they weren't called out and were, you know, in our schools, checking on the buildings. Plus, our staff, you know, were reminded to continually walk the buildings each day, making sure everything was in good shape, and knock on wood, with the exception of one busted pipe, I think, at the old Rustburg Middle School, and I'm not even sure that was due to cold, that we didn't have any issues. We were able to open successfully, but it was a lot of work. So when a lot of staff were, you know, taking days off, there was a lot of people behind the scenes out there working daily in that cold to make sure our buildings stayed or were maintained. So I just want to say I thank them for that.
Okay.
That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
I did want to ask a quick question on the middle school. So are we good?
We got doors yet?
We have temporary doors,
Yeah.
most of them. I think there was maybe a couple that were still to be installed. And the, you know, our current date of January 23rd is a little bit in jeopardy. We're gonna probably have to push that out, but I'll get you more information as that comes along. But it's coming together, it really is. It's just little things that occur, you know, that right here at the end, when they're really bringing things together that cause, you know, some issues, elevator issues. But anyway, it's coming, so.
Well, good.
So no weather-related problems there either?
No, they were there, they were checking, well, they were working. I mean, they worked all weekend this past weekend. I mean, so they're working. So they were there, but no, knock on wood, they didn't have any, you know, they're working on a lot of the systems, the HVAC system, trying to get some balancing done to get that, but, you know, until you occupy the building, it's gonna be difficult to get that fine-tuned, but, yeah, I mean, everybody's, you know, working hard. If you're interested in getting in there and seeing it, give me a call and we can go most any day.
I would like to do that, definitely. I know that, I was talking to Mr. Beecraft last week, so I know they're just as anxious to get out of there as we are to get in, so.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I did want to remind you of your meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. I've sent you on Friday, emailed you the agenda and the resolution that you'll be asked to consider tomorrow night for funding for the Brookville renovation project. So, but the meeting is at 6:30 at the Haber Building.
Okay. All right, thanks, sir. Next, matters from the board. Let's start with Mr. Jones.
I don't have much. I'd just like to express my appreciation to Dr. Miller for his past years being the director or the engineer, the train, and appreciate everything you've done. Thank you for that. I appreciate the SROs for everything you do and the whole group of you do. We just appreciate it so much. And again, thank you for all the people that made donations again this month. It's just genuinely good folks out there that, you know, donate money for the benefit of the children. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, just to echo outstanding effort for the grant for the mental health services. I think Harvest Outreach, I was kind of looking around, I don't see anybody from there here tonight, I don't think, but thanks to those folks for helping out and for the staff for everything that you guys have did to, that's a huge award there. So big help. I've talked to some folks with the Medicaid issue, so that's going to be a big help to a lot of students and their parents, so glad to hear that. Mr. Shields, Dr. Shields, you're a busy man. I'll hit the highlights, but I did make the Christmas concerts, winter concerts for chorus and the band. Both were outstanding, and I tell you what, I went to the high school for the band concert, and I thought for sure there was a band concert as well as a basketball game and who knows what else, because I had to park behind the school, and I came in, there was standing room only for the band concert. There was no other events going on. It was all for the band, so that's great. Great turnout for that event, so really happy to see that, and the kids did a great job. So looking forward to a theater event coming up in February. That's Peter Pan, I think it is, February 2nd and 3rd, actually 2nd and 5th. Boys and varsity and JV basketball are doing well. JV is undefeated and varsity is 7-1, so that's good to hear. Did well at a track invitational with the second place finish there. We have Landon Marquise, who placed first in the Battle of the Belts 190-pound class for wrestling. And you've got an open house for the parents tomorrow night, 3:30 to 6:30 at the high school. So, and one other thing, Adam Tweedy received special recognition from Senator Mark Warner for his contributions to the FFA. So a lot going on at the high school. Thank you for sharing that information. I was happy to share that tonight. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Ms. Parker?
Yes, well, congratulations, Mark, on the chairmanship. And I want to thank Scott for being my freshman year. He was available between patients even to talk to me when I had questions, and I appreciate everything and recommendations and your tutelage. I really appreciate it. Had emails with Principal Ackerman from Tomahawk Elementary today. He reminded me, which I should have remembered on my own, to thank our newly retired SRO, Russell Glass. Appreciate getting to know him, and he did a great job, and the kids loved him. He will definitely be missed, and to welcome the new SRO, Deputy West, who I have not met yet, but I look forward to meeting. Then they also are having a book fair coming up in February they're excited about, from the 20th to the 23rd. And then I was in communication with Ms. Dukes, the counselor at Brookville Middle School, and they're having their Showcase of Excellence on Thursday the 19th from 4:30 to 6:30, which is like an open house. And they are having food and prizes. And then they're also going to be doing a field trip. The 8th graders are going to do a field trip here to the Tech Center on Friday, February 3rd. There's a morning session and an afternoon session for them to check out the Tech Center, and they'll also be doing academic and career path plans with their counselors that day. So that's super cool to hear. You know, we're working with our middle schoolers. And then Principal White at the high school wanted me to remind everyone of our open house. I know Leon will probably do too. It's always fun, I'm telling you. She makes a really fun open house tomorrow between 3:30 and 6 at Brookville High School. And just a reminder, school's closed Monday for Martin Luther King Jr. and Indigenous Peoples Day. And there are no students on Tuesday the 17th. It's a teacher in service day. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Brandt?
Oh, let's see here. Dr. Miller started out by thanking our SR officers, and I want to do the same. National Law Enforcement Day. Well, please pass that on to all of our SRO officers in all of our schools. Very thankful that we have them in each and every school. Also, we just mentioned that the open house tomorrow night from 3:30 to 6. And the theme is going to be Be Spectacular, New Year, new classes, and they get to see who their second semester teachers are and everything, and should be a nice evening. The band students recently participated in Longwood Honor Band, and they were participating with the VT Honor Band this month. I can't believe. And our basketball cheerleaders were on TV Saturday night cheering with the JMU cheerleaders. And James and the Giant Peach Jr. will run on Friday, January the 20th through Sunday, January 22nd at Brookville High School. And this will be the Brookville Middle School students performing. So if you get a chance on Friday, January 20th, 21st, or 22nd, please go by the high school and see a great event from middle school students. And that's all I have. And also, I do want to thank Dr. Miller for a fine job you did this past year.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Mr. Maddox?
Only thing I got, thoughts and prayers for the teacher that got shot in Newport News.
Yes.
It's a shame we gotta deal with that, but anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you. Dr. Miller?
Yeah, I don't have much, and glad that you're taking over the reins here, Mr. Epperson. I'm really tickled about this grant, because it's been weighing on me how we were gonna ask our Board of Supervisors to provide extra funding for some services we've gotten used to with the CARES money, because not just used to, but it's turned out that it's been a necessity to provide these services. And so this grant just really, really gives us some breathing room, and I'm really tickled about that, because I've been concerned about that. So that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you. I too would just like to thank Dr. Miller for his outstanding leadership as chair in 2022. Appreciate all you did last year and you continue to do as a board member. I'd like to thank too the SROs. Thank you guys for everything you do. We appreciate that. We don't say thank you enough, but we do appreciate that we know that our kids can come to school every day and be safe, and we thank you. Maintenance, as someone who lived through a frozen pipe in December, I can truly appreciate what you guys do for us as maintenance and keep an eye out on our buildings, and we appreciate that. And again, just to echo Dr. Stanley and staff, thank you for your hard work in getting that grant. That is big, big, big news, so we thank you for that. And that's all I have. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Otherwise, I believe we have a need for a closed session tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we convene in a closed meeting for the discussion or the consideration of disciplinary matters or other matters that would involve the disclosure of information contained in the scholastic record concerning students in the school division, specifically student number 20 from the 2022-2023 school year in accordance with section 2.2-3711A2 of the Code of Virginia, 1950 as amended.
Second.
Number 26.
Got a motion by
What'd I say?
Mr. Jones and a second by Mr. Maddox.
Correction, I think it was student number 26.
I just read what it says on the thing. So, student number 26.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Maddox. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's take a 5-minute recess here, and then we'll come back in closed session. Thanks.
Give me a
I'd like to make
pen.
a motion to adjourn.
Nope, we gotta go back and open
No.
session.
I'm gonna wait till, are we good now? All right. Motion to certify the closed session. I ask for a motion certifying to the best of each member's knowledge that during our closed meeting, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the school board.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Brandt and a second motion by Mr. Maddox. All those that are in agreement signify by raising your right hand. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman Epperson, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion,
Second.
motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Maddox. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thanks again.